ladies, and welcome to this special edition of the Summer Camp Takeaways. Would you ladies please introduce yourselves, and then we'll jump right into all of the takeaways and the fun that we had. We'll talk all about Heather's summer camp. So I'm going to go to Megan first, and then Vonne, and then Del. Megan?
Hi, I'm Megan Whiteside. I'm a plaintiff's personal injury attorney in Washington, D.C. and Maryland. And I'm excited to be here, Mia.
Thanks for coming. Vonne?
Hi, I'm Vonne Jacobs. I am principal and founder of Pharaoh's Healthcare Consulting. I am in Durham, North Carolina. Hi.
Hey. And Del?
Hi. Hi, Mia. I'm Del Friday. I'm an estate planning lawyer in Vancouver, Canada, and I primarily work with elders and their caregivers.
Awesome. Y'all, we didn't plan this. Like, I don't just know attorneys. So, and like, you guys are also, we're all co-clients. You're co-clients of mine and of Heather's, right?
Yes.
Right.
That's how we all met. So this is what I wanted to talk about today. So we all attended this thing called summer camp that our friend Heather Hubbard put on, and it was amazing. Like, it was so amazing. And I was like, Heather, I need to interview you. And I'm also going to interview these ladies, and we're going to talk about takeaways. So that's the reason for us being here today. And I kind of wanted to share how we all have different perspectives, but we all had different takeaways. But what there's going to probably be a thread throughout, and I have no idea because I haven't asked these ladies anything yet. But we're going to talk about our experience there and then what we took away. So I'm going to go to Megan first again.
Sure.
Megan, why don't you share your takeaway with us, and then we'll kind of talk about it.
So summer camp was awesome. It was spectacular to be virtually in the room with some powerhouse women. And my huge takeaway was to be you unapologetically. There were so many different speakers and workshops, and some of the keynotes and the different women presented their own stories. Del and Vonne did, which they were spectacular. And the common thread for me throughout is that how we show up in business and in life, we need to get comfortable being uncomfortable and being vulnerable and being ourselves unapologetically. And that's really how we're going to tap into our superpowers, how we're going to make an impact the way we want to, and trying to conform to somebody else's standard or what we think other people expect of us is not how we're really going to make an impact. So what I keep coming back to every time I think about summer camp and I look through my notes as I'm trying to implement some new ideas is just be you unapologetically.
Oh, that's really good. And I want to talk about unapologetically, right? I found myself in the last, I don't know if it was a week or so, where I had done some work with another coach, and I had given her access to a program that I created for you guys. And one of her clients sent her an email about the title. So the title had the word bitch in it, and she was upset. Like, her client was really upset about it. And so she sent it to me. She was like, oh, I think we're going to have some pushback about this and yada, yada, yada. And I started thinking, and so I sent her an email back, and I was like, well, what do you want to do? And for me, it was almost like I had all these things running through my mind about what it meant to be me and how I was showing up in that moment, and then how she wanted to show up, because we had already talked about it before we sent it out, right? So she'd agreed to the name. And so what does it mean for y'all when you show up unapologetically? So I love that Megan talked about that. What does that mean for you, Del?
I think a lot of it is calling my people to me and then repelling pushing away the people that are not my people. So that was the nice thing. When you just said that, that's what ran through my head was like, oh, that's a wonderful thing, because that means those people are not your people. And it's almost like a stop sign, right? Like an immediate, like, you don't want to work with me because this is how I work. And I'm not changing myself to work with you. And yeah, I think I took that away too. And like the other thing that comes to mind is that sometimes the thing that we are most self-conscious about is the thing that other people want to see more of. Like, you know, so the things that I don't really like to show people, and yet that's like the essence of me. When I do show people, it attracts them. You know, it's not actually pushing them away like I thought it would. It's actually the thing that's calling my people to me. So, yeah, that's what I think of.
What about you, Vonne?
Yeah, all of this is resonating for me. This was, first of all, summer camp was just freaking amazing. And it reminded me that we are capable of such great things, and we don't give ourselves space to believe that and to act on it. And to realize that Heather had this vision of turning something that was supposed to be a small in-person gathering into this huge event, and then made it happen in like 2 months, was just a big fat reminder to me that I am capable of amazing things if I just put myself out there and do them. And so it was great to see that and have that reminder. And then I just took away a lot of the things that you guys have been talking about, owning your authentic self and letting that be what people see, because like Dell is saying, your people are going to be attracted to that and want to be a part of that. And your people are enough to sustain you and your dream. Like, I think we get caught up in this idea that, well, there are only going to be 2 or 3 people who like that, and that's not going to be enough. But honestly, there are enough of your people to sustain you and your dream. And you don't need to worry about, well, I have to have 10,000 people on an email list, or I have to have, 25 new private clients come in this month. I may only need 3 people, because those 3 people are going to be so all in that they are going to help propel me into what I want to do next. And right. So it was just this great opportunity to really settle into that and take ownership of that idea and that concept, and then start acting on it, which was my sort of big takeaway was, okay, now that you get this, now that you see what it looks like in real time, get to work, like really start doing the work and taking these risks, because Heather took a big risk financially and brand wise and all of that, and look at what she was able to accomplish. And everyone I've talked to that was at summer camp is just in awe of, oh my gosh, and they're all excited. And the impact that she's had by standing on her dream and being like, I can do this. Okay, I want to do that. I want to do that in my own way, in my own space, for my own tribe. And so that was my takeaway, was get to work.
Oh, I love that. And because she presenced it for all of us, and I think that's probably why we even wanted to talk about it, right? Because you can actually see it happening in real time. And she actually practiced what she was preaching. But I'm not going to jump into that. I'm going to let Dell talk about what her experience was and like what she took away from it.
My key takeaway. I think at first, if you asked me this question first, I would have said one of the big key takeaways was to unplug my work from praise and from criticism. That was one thing I got from Corey Carew. And I was like, because it's things I've known all along, and yet the very nature of our society, take it from like grade 8 art class, when everyone looks at your artwork and says, that's good art, that's bad art, all the way up to like, say, an Instagram post that no one likes, or that LinkedIn feed thing that you spent all this time on and no one's reading, like all that stuff. And yet I knew she was right, that you got to keep plugging in. And Heather, a lot of people didn't like this idea she'd come up with of doing virtual online summer camp. Like even her people, like her loyal clients were like, I don't want to do it, right? Like that was like, we heard a lot of people complaining. Everyone's like, I don't want to be on Zoom. I don't want to do it. It's stupid. This is not like going in person. I don't want to, there was so much negativity, and she just kept persevering and pushing herself. And so I got to see that part of her, like how to say you want to do something and just do it, and don't care that other people don't want to do it, and just keep doing your own dream. And then some people will join you. And then if you do it well, at the end of the day, you're doing it for yourself. it was really like, that was a real mind-blowing thing for me to watch. And then I'm gonna have two takeaways. The other thing that I was blown away with was like, there was all these people who I kind of had put on a pedestal, and we got to like spend time with them. And like, I got to meet, not Brene Brown's lawyer, but Brene Brown's, PR people's lawyer. So I was 2 steps away from Brene Brown.
Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I need Brene Brown for something else.
Right? Okay, so it wasn't Brene Brown, and it wasn't Brene Brown's people, but it was her people's people. And that was close enough for me. And, you know, like you start to realize, and like, this person participated the entire time. This wasn't an event where people just showed up, did their little bit, and you were so excited just to see them do their little thing, and then they disappeared. No, like Corey Carew was always in my breakout rooms from the next time. Like every time I got on into breakout rooms, there was Corey. I like, oh, I like Autumn. Like I kept running into Autumn into the little breakout rooms. And so I thought that was very cool. And then I also had to check myself, because like, why do I think these people are so special?
But it's so cool that you said that though, because like I have been like LinkedIn stalking Corey for 2 years and like commenting on her stuff and like all of this and watching her videos. And then to be in a room with her where she was acting like a real normal person instead of this sort of thing that I've created an idea of her on LinkedIn. It was like so awesome. And not that she's not who she is on LinkedIn, but it's like, but I have now direct access to someone who I've been studying, honestly, for 2 years.
Yes, yes.
And there were so many people, so many women who attended who had been on Heather's former podcast, Hustle and Flow. And that was how I learned about Heather Hubbard. Another lawyer mom had recommended her podcast to me. And her podcast was transformative. And then to be in the room with all of these powerhouse women who had been on her podcast, Mia included, right? That's how I found you, Mia, is through the Hustle and Flow podcast. And it was, everybody was real. You know, like you said, Vonne, you kind of have an idea in your head, you know, oh my gosh, these women, they're so successful, they're so innovative, they're doing these, you know, amazing things, but we were all there and we all just dove right in and participated in whatever the activity was or the workshop was. And it just was, it was so uplifting. Like, I can do this too. These women are doing
Megan,
things.
That's it.
Megan, when you say participating, that was the difference, because I had friends who like wanted to come. I got them the ticket, like great price, all those things. They were coming and they didn't actually show up. Like you actually had to participate. Like you had to, Heather called it like taking the brown paper bag off your head, like turning on your camera. You had to like show up, and you actually had to go in the breakout room, and then you would see Corey. You actually had to do the work and like, and be there. And then when you started actually doing the work and saying yes and like participating, then you suddenly see like, oh, the reason why this person is Brene Brown's people's lawyer is like she does the work. Like she shows up and asks for the work, right?
Yeah.
There's no other difference. Like you get to see them on a level playing field. Like Corey Carew just does the work and puts it out in the world for people to share. And like, it was so uplifting that we could do that too.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question for all of you, because I want to know, did you see yourselves in those same people that you've been fangirling and stalking, right? Did you see yourselves in them? I mean, did you see yourselves in them?
I did. I will say this. I remember exactly when I was like, okay, I can really do this thing, right? And it was with Corey, right? So I was doing my summer camp, my campfire story. And, you know, you could see the audience on, like you can do in Zoom with the panels or whatever. You could see the audience. And there was a line that I gave where I said something about like being the magical Negro in the firm brochure. And Corey jumped up and like started clapping and laughing. And I was like, yes, that was my, like, I was like, I don't need anything else from this entire experience, because she got me. And that was my thing where I was like, okay, well then we are more alike than we are different. Like if she got me and she got that line and she was so excited and engaged with that, okay, then that means that she's not like this off sort of character person. Like we are really colleagues and compatriots and members of the same tribe. And that means that the same kind of great things that Corey's doing, I can do my version of that on the same kind of scale, on the same sort of playing field. Like we are not this very different thing. We are really on the same page with that. And that was how I was like, oh yeah, I can do this.
Yes, yes. And I saw that too. So I want to know, did you feel any of that? Did you two feel any of that?
It was an arc, right? And so Heather kind of talked about this. She had a behind the scenes Zoom afterwards to kind of talk about her vision and how she pulled this all off. And she talked about how she had a vision and for the arc of the event. We're going to start at one place and she wanted all of us to get somewhere by the end. And it wasn't instantaneous for me, right? It took those 3 days, but by the end, some of the words that the speakers had said in day 1 started to click in day 3, right? I attended Amber Billhauer's, I don't know if it was a workshop or what event, a Zoom event early on in the summer camp. And she talked about how the way forward to market yourself or your product or your business is to be vulnerable and open to connection. That sounds great, right? That, oh yeah, that resonates. Okay, I get that. But I didn't really get it until day 3 when I saw other women being vulnerable. Heather Chauvin, Corey Carew, all of the campfire stories where, people were real and raw and vulnerable, and we really made connections, from people who, aren't famous in their industry, to people who are. And it was sort of like, by the end, I thought I could do that too. I can, if I am my true self, if I'm vulnerable, because I have a vision and I know there are people I want to serve, I can really make those connections. Like, this is scary, but not impossible. So that it took me the 3 days, but I got there.
Awesome. What about you, Del? Did you see yourself in the people that you held to a different standard or on a higher yourself?
I think the same thing where it took a little bit of time, because at the very beginning, I had this feeling like, oh, Heather just let me do the campfire story because I'm one of her clients, and like this is like a perk of being one of her clients. And I didn't realize like that it was competitive to get the campfire story and that she had turned people down. Like that had never crossed my mind. I had not put myself as a peer to any of those people. And then, so as the campfire stories went on, I was like, oh, mine stands up. Like mine is just as good as everybody else's. Like, I don't think I knew that. And so then, but by the end, this will sound like I went from like 0 to 100. So Jen, is it Jen Kim, who was the last speaker, the like mega coach, like the coach of all coaches, like, the superstar. I was watching this speak and I was like, yeah, that's how you do it. Yeah, that's me. Like, it was like by the end, I could just see how she was doing it, what she was planting, like how her business worked, how she was strategically planting seeds with us for sales later. I could see all the things, and I could see why she did it and why it worked and how valuable it was. And suddenly I was like, that could be me. And then I finished, and then I needed to lay down like for a week.
I think we were all exhausted by the end.
It was. But wasn't it also nice to be able to unplug? Like for me, I think I left my phone alone. Like one of the days, I didn't even look at my phone. And I appreciated the fact, because at first I was like, 3 days? Like we're supposed to participate? Because I was like, I'm going to present and I'm out. And then Heather was like, no, I want you to come, like you get to attend. And that's the other part of it, right? Everybody who was in the room was meant to be there. She had the people in the room that she wanted in the room. So there was matchmaking going on before she even started. And she talked about that a little bit on the podcast. But the other part was unplugging, being present, and having to participate, as you said, really helped me to like experience it, because that's what it was supposed to be about, an experience. And I love the fact that she just had all that set up on the front end.
Yeah.
Her vision is amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
that's her brilliance, where
Yeah.
she saw the different topics she wanted speakers to cover. She saw how they fit together. She was purposeful in, you know, she had us in cabins at the beginning of each day. And, you know, I bonded with my cabin mates, and we still are emailing, and we're going to set up our own Zoom to kind of go through how we've been implementing what we learned at summer camp. I mean, she was intentional in who she put us in a cabin with. So she thought about each of us and what we bring to the table, which I hadn't considered I brought anything to the table when I signed up, right? Like I thought I'm going to get to learn from such amazing women and a few men. But by the end, like Del said, it's like, I can do this. I am here for a reason. I get it. That was pretty cool.
That is cool.
You know, one of the things about Heather events, when you're saying unplugging, right, was that I knew from the 2 Heather events I had attended before, the Life and Law, I can't remember what she called it, but the first event, she usually had like this kind of 3-day event. I went to Miami and went to the event with her. And by day 2, I was a wreck, like an absolute wreck, because she like shook up the whole way I thought about things. And so I kind of knew that going into her first retreat in Miraval we had in January, was like, oh yeah, I'm going to get shook up. This is going to be hard. And so I kind of prepared for that, right? And even on this one, I prepared for it. And I was a camp counselor, and I knew like day 1 is going to seem fun, but by the time you get back on Tuesday, you're going to be questioning everything that you think about yourself. So on the Tuesday morning, when I had my cabin come together, I was like, is anyone feeling tired? Is anyone feeling like, it felt like I could finally come to be a good counselor. The day before was just like, what are your names? How does this tech work? It's not working. But by day 2, you could see people getting transformed, and it's not an easy thing to be transformed. Like, I find it, and you have to create the space. So I was so happy I knew to do that. Like that I would be tired, that I shouldn't schedule anything else on these days, that I needed to get away from the kids to do this properly, all those things.
Yeah, yeah. Vonne, did you have some of that?
I did. I mean, you know, I am the queen of multitasking, and so and I had not sort of considered what Del was talking about. I should have learned that from January, right? But I didn't. And so I thought I was going to be able to play this game that I normally play, which is I'll be listening and part of my brain will be engaged, but I can still sort of do some of these other little things. But that is not how Heather works. That is, she truly designs the experience so that you have almost no choice but to pay attention, because number one, you don't get any warning ahead of time really as to what's going to be happening when. Like you get an overarching kind of theme-ish.
Yeah, I love that.
You know that you're going to be doing this, that, and the other. And so you kind of have to be checked in, which meant I ended up, without realizing it, having my phone turned over. So I didn't even see the light, you know, with the stuff popping up, because I had to be, well, which room am I in, and who's talking about what, and how much time do we have? And it really did create the experience that I would not have been able to have if I had been trying to do my normal thing, which teaches me that I need to be less multitasky in my general life, because I feel like I got so much more done. I was much more productive when I said, okay, well, these hours are for this thing.
Yes.
That is what I'm doing, and I'm doing this thing. And we had breaks, and so I could do, but like, this is what I'm doing. And that's a great lesson for me, because I am always trying to do 15 things at once, which is why I feel like I almost never get anything done until I sit. And we've had this conversation, Mia, when I sit still and say, okay, you're doing this thing now, you do this thing. And that was what her experience was designed as. And it showed me the power of really intentionally engaging with the one thing in front of you and what you can accomplish with that.
Yeah, I think that, you know, multitasking is a thing of the 80s. Like, I really believe that people thought in the 80s that that was the thing. And now we're really finding that people who try to multitask, they really don't get things done. they don't do it well, and it takes them longer because you're constantly interrupted, right?
Yeah.
So I can totally appreciate the fact that you decided to be there when you were there, and I love that. And the other thing that I like that she did was each session, like the workshops themselves, were only 40 minutes,
Yeah.
right? And it had me look at some other ways that, you know, I'm going to be training people, like how long do I want to have them online and have them looking into a camera or looking, you know, creating this new communication wave that we have here, right? Because it is hard to be with each other this way.
Well, and I think that she was brilliant in that there wasn't even time for Zoom fatigue, but we all were fatigued after because we were engaged. But, you know, what we kind of learned by the end of summer camp was that each Zoom room that you went into had a purpose, and each presenter actively engaged the audience. So even, you know, the whole time they kept saying, you know, make sure your camera's on, be here, be present. But it's not just video. Like, you couldn't just stay on video and stay on mute. You were asked questions. There were polls. There were breakout rooms within these smaller workshop sessions. We had, you know, a prompt or a task, and we'd get into a room, you know, like the four of us, there would be, you know, 3 other women I had never met before. And we had this prompt, and a lot of them asked you to be real and be vulnerable and start talking about stuff that you don't normally talk about. And so by the end of day one, I actually wasn't tired. I had this huge adrenaline rush because I don't think I had ever done anything where I was so engaged. And then before you know it, the 40 minutes is over or 45 minutes is over and you're on to the next thing. And it was go, 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 go. And I didn't crash until the end of day 2 because then after doing that 2 days in a row, I think my mind and my body, my whole spirit was just, it was awesome and overwhelming.
Yeah. And I think that for all of us, right, it's like we're taking this information in, or we're sharing these experiences, and we don't even realize it when we're in the moment, how much it is affecting us physically, right?
Yeah.
So I'm glad that we actually talked about that too. Now, I want to know who here has done an act of courage every day since then.
No.
I don't know that I have. I'm impressed, Mia, if you have. I don't know that I have, but it's in my conscious mind now, right? That when I'm feeling uncomfortable and I'm facing something that might take an act of simple courage, my mind is present on what that is. So I think that the recognition is a huge thing for me. I aspire to get to the point where I'm doing something every day and acting on that simple courage, but not yet.
Okay. What about you, Dan?
I think a little bit, because I forgot about that phrase. So I forgot about the assignment.
You forgot about the new branding.
Well, no, because I got the mug. I'm all in. Like, whatever Heather's got, if I have the money, I'm buying it. Like, I'm all in. But I think what I realized what I've been trying to do, like, I've been framing it as difficult conversations. So I realized, like, there was things that I wasn't taking control of. And maybe that's part of the simple courage of just getting, like, overall. So, like last week, I tried to really unplug and not do, you asked me to do stuff, I said no. I was trying to really protect my energy and my time. And, like, yesterday I had a difficult conversation with a client, and it turned out fine. But it was like me, like, sweating through a suit kind of conversation to get it started. But then I did it, and it was a good thing. So yeah, that kind of courage, I think she just encourages me to do the difficult stuff, and that the difficult stuff is worth doing. And it's good.
Yeah, somebody, I forget who says it, but like, we can do hard things. I think it was Glennon Doyle in one of her books. She's like, we can do hard things, right?
Yeah.
And we're just so much more resilient after we do them. So yeah. So what about
and sometimes the hard things aren't hard. They're, like, emotionally hard. They're hard to start.
Or we make up that they're going to be hard, and they're not hard at all.
All right. Well, now that you guys describe it like that, then yes, I have done my homework. Because I wasn't, okay, I'm again sort of in that old mindset thinking about, well, I haven't really done much of anything. But I mean, Del, you're right. I realized that my body was tired and I needed to not do some stuff. And that was hard to be like, I'm not taking calls. I'm not getting online. I'm not doing anything, even though I have this to-do list. I asked for help. I took the help. You exactly, Del, right? You know me. That's not my thing. I don't, but like even in having Courtney come today, that was for me, it'd be like to offer Courtney, I would have normally been like, no, I can get it done. I just need to stop being lazy. No, it's not that I'm being lazy. I am tired. I don't want to do this. My energy is not dedicated to it. I am going to take the help that's offered to me and let someone else take care of me. And that was my difficult thing, was to be like, it's not a failure to accept someone's help. I would not have described it that way, I think, 2 weeks ago.
And I think that it takes courage to admit that too. So Dell talked about setting boundaries, right? And having difficult conversations. But then you also presenced something about asking for help and the word lazy in itself, right? To me, like, we can't be lazy. Like, if you need to take a break, you take a break. If you're tired, you're tired. And for us women, like, we are so busy trying to this is going back to the unapologetic stuff, right? Because I think that we're so busy trying to live up to standards that aren't even ours, that we forget sometimes that, you know, the courage is in the asking. The courage is in the knowing for yourself and being honest with yourself about what's true for you. That's where the courage is. I know it is for me, right? Do you guys have any last words that you want to say about what you experienced at summer camp or anything like that before we jump off?
I think the one other thing that has really stuck with me since summer camp is, you know, when we got the agenda, I didn't understand why Heather had a keynote at the end of each day, right? When you think of a keynote, you think it's at the beginning of the event, there's some message, and then we're off to the conference, right? But there was a takeaway from each keynote that was really resonant and impactful, right? Orlando Bowen on day one talked about, when you raise the bar for yourself, make sure to raise the floor so that someone else can reach that bar too. Like that quote, I don't know if I got it exactly, but
good.
That, I would get chills thinking about it, right? There's so much that we're meant to do. Each of us have our superpowers, and we want to help people, but there are ways that you know, Heather's speakers pulled that out, and Heather herself in her keynote pulled it out, where it's like, we're all in this together. And then with all of you women and all of the other women who were there, who were showing up and being vulnerable, there were just so many things that were so resonant and deep and impactful that I'm just so grateful for. I'll go back and look at my notes periodically, and I hope to going forward, because I wrote down little quotes like that I think are really gonna be motivating for me, and I hope for everyone else that was there. And I'm just so grateful to Heather for putting on summer camp.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think there's just, I mean, like, the bar has been raised. I mean, Heather has created an experience, and now I'm judging everyone else's stuff by what I'm serious. I mean, like, I'm getting invited to virtual conferences now, you know, because everybody's doing one. And I'm like, but if yours isn't going to be like Heather's, then I'm not going. If you're not going to make sure that you're having your people participate and not just talking at me for 3 hours on camera, I'm not interested in what you're doing. And so she has really shifted my standard of what is an acceptable conference. And that is, you know, that's changing an industry, that's changing the world. And then the thing that I took away most, I think, was from Orlando's talk too. And the question he was asked, where were you? He was telling the story of his work in prison and how one of the inmates had said to him, where were you? When I was a little boy, if you had been there, my life would be totally, and that keeps playing in my head when I think about hesitating to put stuff out, where somebody's asking, where were you? Where are you? And that one really, that one hit hard. So that was my big.
Oh, I'm going to use that against you.
I know you are.
Oh,
Yes.
I know you
Where
are.
are you, girl? What about
I
you?
love that. Well, Vonne just like shook me.
It does, man. It messes with you.
Right? I think Vonne is right about the standards, and it wasn't just, I think my biggest thing was that it wasn't just that the room was full of people who were high achievers and like who were doing things, and it was that the room was filled with people who wanted to participate and were willing to do the work. And so like my day one of the big takeaways I loved about day one was that I think she very purposefully put people of color on, like throughout there was like a number of people of color who, like, it just became like it was just normal. Like it was like you're walking through Walmart, like what you would normally see, but that's not what you see when you come to these conferences.
Yes.
And so it wasn't just that it was all these amazing women and a few amazing men, and there was people of color, and they're like, and everyone is mixing together and they're being put forward, and then people do the work, like, because it takes work to show up and go into the breakout room and participate and share your vulnerable stories. And like, so it wasn't just that it was an event, it was like that she managed to get everybody who wanted to be there to actually, when they were there, be present and show up. So like, it almost feels like we could have been doing anything in a way, like we could have been playing Scrabble, like it didn't matter. It was that we all showed up, wanted to get to know each other in a deeper way. And that's what made it special. So for me.
And I think that she purposefully wanted this to be an event run by women. The vast majority, I think all but 2 of the speakers were women. And most were women of color. And I think all of us who attended showed up differently because of that.
Yeah.
Right? When we've all been to plenty of events that are, run by men, all the speakers are men, and maybe they have expertise that we learn something, we take away something, but I show up differently. And I didn't realize until this event that I do.
Yeah.
But when the speakers were modeling that vulnerability and courage, right? My quote from Heather's keynote that I carry with me is, what if everything that you want is on the other side of fear? And you saw all these speakers being fearless and bold and vulnerable, and it encouraged the rest of us to show up that way too. It was just an amazing experience I had never had before.
Yes, and I'm gonna close with that, because I think that was the biggest takeaway for me, was that I saw Heather create this thing, but I also saw her showing the simple courage, right? And I saw her saying to all of us, right, like, this is how you do it, because we were seeing her do it in real time, even down to what she was sharing, to everything about it, because she's changing her whole brand, right? Talk about a disruptor, right? She disrupted her own brand to create something that was totally out of the box, and she wanted to provide this kind of service to other people, but now you actually got to see her do it. So not only was she creating it for us, she was showing us how to do it. So for me, like, that was the biggest takeaway, and I totally appreciate the fact that she was also very vulnerable, and she was open about how she did it.
Yeah.
So thank you, ladies, for showing up today.
Hey.
I know Heather totally appreciates it, and I do too. So I want to thank you guys for being on here today and talking about your experience at summer camp. And I will see you guys next time.
Thank you so
Bye,
much.
friends.
Thanks.
Bye.